After one game, Skip?
Yeah.
I mean,
it was some game, but
I mean, yeah. I mean, unless you're expecting Anthony Edwards to continue to dominate, I just think the Nuggets, they haven't been tested this playoffs yet. Now this is their first test, but I think the championship experience is going to come out. Joker can't play this bad. And you know the crazy part about it? He scored 32 and 9, and we're saying he had a bad game because of the turnovers. He's not going to shoot 11 for 25. No. You know, this wasn't your typical Joker game. And Ant-Man's not going to continue to get 43. I mean, he's capable of it, but I don't think he's going to continue to do those things. You know, they lost on their home floor. Denver has shown that they can win on the road in the playoffs. And I think it's going to be a 7-game series, but I still believe that Denver, at the end, their experience is going to show. Coaching is going to show in this. They're going to make the necessary adjustments, and they're going to win it in 7. I truly believe that. And I think the only threat, well, let's just say they do lose to Minnesota. I'm picking Minnesota to come out of the West if they lose this series, actually.
But you're not.
But I'm not.
Okay.
But whoever wins this series is coming out of the West. And I still got Denver.
Okay.
Period.
But I told you going into this series, Skip, that I had faith in the Denver Nuggets, but it was like 60-40 faith. Maybe it's like 55-45 now. But
fair enough.
To me, there's no question that it is just one game. Defending champs, they have the experience. If it comes down to a game 7, that's on their floor. That really matters, especially with that team. I think it's fascinating that this Nuggets team was built by Tim Connelly in the front office. After 10 years, he left Denver and went to Minnesota and immediately set out to build a team that could beat the team he had just built.
By the way, you're the only one giving him national credit for that. I don't hear his name. I don't hear anything about him. But you were correct.
He's the guy who drafted Nikola Jokic in the first place when nobody else knew how talented he was going to be. And this is amazing if you look at the dates. He got to Minnesota in May of 2022. He had made the trade for Rudy Gobert, a trade that, by the way, was, I think was, 5 picks that he gave up, right? And among many other things. He made that trade within 2 months. Less than 2 months, he had already made this huge deal that, by the way, was ridiculed. At the time, people said he gave up too much, and then certainly over the next year, as things didn't work out the way they had hoped. Oh, man, that's an anachronistic trade. That's something that's the old NBA. People don't give up those number of first-round picks anymore. And it turns out that in a league where the last 5 MVP awards have been awarded to big man and we're about to have a 6th, you really need to build up your defense against players like Jokic and Giannis and Joel Embiid if you were going to win a title. So I think it is the forward-thinking nature of the way this team was built. It puts a little bit of a spotlight on front offices, which I don't think we talk about enough when we talk about why NBA teams win. That is just as important a component. Do you have a savvy front office? And I think that has allowed them, along with the emergence of Anthony Edwards, to compete at this level. I still have to think, though, that Denver's going to do what Paul said. Coach Michael Malone is excellent. He's going to make adjustments.
Yeah.
Jokic is excellent. He's going to be more careful with the ball. And by the way, the alley-oops between him and Gordon are going to be a little bit more crisp. So I just think that there's ingredients there for Denver to get back into this series. But you have to be super impressed with not only Ant, but the way the Nuggets are structured.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, absolutely. Okay, I'm with both of you. I had Denver in 7. I'm sticking with Denver in 7. I think Saturday night had something to do with the Lakers series because I believe that the Denver Nuggets got lulled to sleep by being able to come out and sort of shrugging and yawning and saying, okay, let them have a little lead here, and then we'll get serious about this. And all 5 times, actually, one time they couldn't quite pull it off, but if we date back to last year, going back 9 games against the Lakers, they've fallen behind every time, and obviously 8 out of 9 times they came back and won because the Lakers play pretty sorry defense compared to this bunch. So all of a sudden, you took it up about 3 levels on defense on Saturday evening in their building, and I don't think they were quite ready. So they came out, and Paul, you know how it feels to try to repeat. It's hard, man. It's hard. You're a little out of gas, and you're saying, let's save a little bit for the conference finals and the finals, and let's pace ourselves. And against this team, you can't pace yourselves the way you could against the Lakers. All right, I'm going to give the T-Wolves one point here, and it's a big point because I'm a Jaden McDaniels fan, and he went 0 for 7 in this game, and they still won by 7. I don't think he's going to go 0 for 7 tonight or going forward because he doesn't. In the closeout game against Phoenix, he had 18, and he's highly capable of getting you 18 on any given night because he's arrived as a piece to this puzzle that you should be able to trust. So that was shocking to me, and I don't think we'll see that. Other than that, I don't know how Minnesota can play a better game than they played on Saturday night. I don't know how you could piece it together anyway. You couldn't script it any better because you got Anthony coming out in the first quarter. What did he give you, 16 in the first quarter?
Dominating.
Okay.
He got too much. He got too confident early.
He did. Well, he got his rhythm, and he got his confidence, and he got his swagger, and all of a sudden, that set the tone, and then in the third quarter, the shock to me was, I'm looking at these numbers. Cat comes out and goes 5 for 5 and scores 11 in the third. And Mike Conley Jr. comes out of nowhere. Not that he isn't capable because he's been doing this for a long time. He makes all 4 of his shots in the third quarter, and that's 11 points. Well, you've just smacked him right in the mouth when they thought they were going to turn it back on. Okay, now we get to Jamal. Is he hurt or not hurt? I don't know because I never know. But he's got a calf that he tweaked or pulled or strained or something happened against the Lakers. Did it stop him against the Lakers? Obviously not, because he still came back and hit the walk-off shot. Okay, so in the first half the other night, he scored 0, and that just doesn't happen. He's not a 0 first half guy. Is he going to score 0 in the first half tonight? I don't think so, because he came back with 17 in the second half the other night. But when you strike, and then they strike back with Karl Anthony Towns and Mike Conley, it's hard, man. Which brings me to Naz Reid. So in the fourth quarter, out of the blue, not that he had in the 6th man of the year, but I didn't see 14 coming, but I didn't see 10 straight points coming. And I think we have the 10 straight points, and it starts with a lucky shot. Remember, he glassed a three-pointer. He accidentally banked it in.
Just banked it in.
And it was heavily contested. Okay, and that was a killer because it put them up 3, and I think it sort of crushed Denver's spirit at that point. And then he gets the follow dunk. And then that was pretty easy. This is Naz Reid taking the game over, and then he swished that one, so he right back on track. And are we
feeling
back
good about my 6th man of the year vote.
Yeah, did you vote for him? Okay, good for you. Okay, and then Ant-Man takes over down the stretch, and he scores 8. He scored 4 from the free throw line, but that one jumper that he created on his own, it was big time, slammed the door, cold-blooded dagger. I don't know. It doesn't get a whole lot better than that. So I saw a stat. He was in this game 7 of 10 on heavily contested jumpers. Okay, well, that's hard to beat, man, as you know. I'm sure you had some games where you were 7 of 10 on heavily contested, where you were just out of your mind, right?
Yeah, he's taking advantage of the matchup. He's the bigger, he's only listed at 6'4", I believe, but he looks like he's 6'8" out there. The way he backs his man's down. He plays an old school style game. And what I mean by that, he backs his man down, turns around, hits the jumper. He's not afraid to get into the mid-range area, which we don't see a lot of these players do these days. I mean, he's just becoming this dominant force. And it's just like we're saying Denver, it's because I don't think our mind can really wrap it around this guy being the guy already at 22. When we start talking about face of the league, you know, obviously we're at the end of an era. LeBron, Curry, KD, and then you figured the guys who are going to usher into the next wave of guys who are going to be faced, Luka, Joker, Tatum, you know, Ja Morant. And then you got this guy who's behind them. Well, it looks like right now, he's trying to skip the line. Like serious, like, because if he beats Denver and somehow gets to the finals, he's skipping all these other guys who I said were right behind.
So instead of skip the BS, he's skipping the line. Okay, there we go.
You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, we wasn't ready for this jump yet. And I'm still, it's tough for me to wrap my mind around this. You know, I'm
have you or not?
I don't know, Skip. I don't know what to think. I saw him go for 43, and I'm like, What's going on here? The kid is only 22.
Well, he's got a confidence that belies him being 22 years old, right? He already is behaving like he is Luka's age or maybe even older. And that is something that normally, when we see a guy come into the league and be 21 and 22, even his fourth year, you think, okay, in these big, big situations, he's going to have to feel his way out. Anthony Edwards has to feel nothing out. He is feeling himself, right? He already knows. He knows when he walks on there how he is going to feel. And it's not just in game one with the heavily contested jumpers. Heavily contested jumpers, he's shooting 53% for the entire playoffs. That's a shooting percentage guys would be thrilled with on any jumper.
Okay, can he sustain?
I mean, look, I'm with Paul. The thing that he can't... You cannot have a career high every night. That's why it's a career high, right? We make the distinction because it is something unusual, so he is not going to do that every night. Is he still going to be a huge presence and someone that the Denver Nuggets have to spend energy accounting for? Absolutely, every night. This kid has no quit. He has a killer instinct. He is 22, so there's no tired in him, Paul. You remember being an older player and going against those 22, 23-year-olds, right? And how that felt. So I think he is going to be a danger this entire series. I would just expect Denver to raise its own level because, to your point, I mean, I just don't... I don't see that there's that much more room for Minnesota to go to, whereas Denver has a lot more room.
A whole lot more room. Although Joker said that he needs to have, he called it a duplicate clone of myself. I think that's redundant, but we just need one. We just need a clone, right? He needs one more Joker because they got a three-headed monster of 7-foot guys that they could throw at him. And it looked like they found more success with Karl Anthony on him so that Gobert can just roam and play center field or free safety or whatever. How tall is he? 7'2" or whatever. And it makes it hard on Joker because he looks to pass it and then he's forcing passes. He only averaged 4 assists a game in the 4 regular season games. Against the Lakers, he was averaging in the last 9, 10 assists. And he had 7 turnovers, as you pointed out, because he's forcing passes to teammates that aren't really open like they were against the Lakers, right? So he's up against it, and he doesn't have another Joker or even a reasonable facsimile, right?
I mean, the question to him that elicited that quote was, hey, how do you go ahead against this 3-headed monster? To which his point was, well, I need more heads myself, right?
Yeah,
I
he
need
needs
another,
a two-headed.
I need another guy. And this comes back to how the roster was built specifically for him. I mean, this was built as a Jokic-killing roster. And the Naz Reid component is, you know, I voted for him for 6th Man of the Year for 2 reasons. First of all, I thought all through the season he showed that. But also when Cat got hurt, and the way he was supposed to step up. We say next man up in this league all the time. Well, he proved it. He showed it. He showed that he is as good and able to fill that role. So it is a 3-headed, not just 2-headed monster. But that also goes back to the Anthony Edwards factor, too, which is crazy when you're talking about big men. Anthony Edwards' emergence has allowed this team to organize itself in a way that they were not able to do last year. When we look at some of the conflicts last year and the Rudy Gobert and the Karl Anthony Towns and whose turn is it and who's the leader and all of that other kind of stuff, Anthony's ascension has meant that those are just not questions anymore. He, at 22 years old, has so much charisma, has so much style, and has the game to back it up. He is the leader of this team. And you saw him on the podium during the last series saying to Karl Anthony Towns in front of the world, stop fouling, right? He used language stronger than that. I'm not going to use that on this program. But he said multiple times, stop fouling. And Karl has had some sensitivity before, but he wasn't sensitive to that. To Ant, because everyone knows, hey, Ant's the guy. He's the leader, and he's saying it in a loving, joking way. And the fact that Anthony Edwards has been able to mix both that bravado with also clear respect for his teammates has allowed guys like Karl Anthony Towns to do the exact thing you were just saying last night and free up Gobert.
So, Paul, I understand you're back and forth about Anthony Edwards.
Yeah.
Every time I watch a game that he plays, he looks a little better than he did last time. That's how fast he's getting better and better and better. Because he used to be so raw. He used to be not very good from 3. And now I'm looking through these 5 games, he's shooting 44% from 3. That's unguardable if you can do that. And to your point about the guarded
attacking the basket too. That's pretty unguardable. Because I know me as a player, if my 3-point was falling, I'm unstoppable. Because you got to run me off the 3, and I was good at going to the basket. And he's way better than I was getting to the basket because his athleticism, the way he finishes, he hangs in the air. And I get what KG said a few weeks ago. He's like 84 Jordan. And people But like, no, just because you heard the word Jordan, you couldn't wrap your mind around it. But if you think about who 84 Jordan was, he was a young, explosive, to the basket. He wasn't the winner yet, but he just had this brashness about him. And you're seeing those things in this kid. And like I said, he's just an anomaly. Yep. He's an anomaly right now. I can't wrap my head around him being the guy right now. You know, because if they win this series, I don't know what to think of this guy. Is he the best player in the league? If he goes on to average 35 versus the Nuggets, I mean, like, is he going to be the face? I mean, it's just so many questions that he's disrupting everything that's going on right now in the NBA. He's the one disruptive because no more of our old guys are in no more. So, right, take them, LeBron, KD, AD, Curry, they're not in no more. Now you got this young disruptor coming in like, you know, it's a new sheriff in town, guys. It's time to lay down. It's time to lay down. And that's what I'm seeing from him. And it's still tough for me to be like, all right, you know, is he the best two guard in the league over, you know, guys like Booker, over guys like Jimmy Butler now, over guys like Jalen? Is he the best two guard?
I mean,
now?
look, he just went up against Devin Booker in the playoff series.
But it's like, I can't.
And we saw what happened.
It's like, like I said, he's disruptive right now, and I don't know what to do.
It's going to be interesting on the Olympics and Team USA this summer because...
Does he start on that team?
If you are Steve Kerr, I think with the way these playoffs have gone, you have to start him over
seriously.
Booker, and that is going to be...
And what does he credit for his instant growth was Team USA last summer, right? Because he was the man for that team.
Yep.
Yeah, he did.
And he learned how to play basketball at a higher level.
Yeah. Being around those guys. And by the way, that's only going to increase when you are around the Team USA is ratcheting up from the sort of more JV version that was in the World Championship.
Now he's going to be able to practice with the Masters. Yeah. With all of the four-headed Masters. Yeah. You know, now he's going to see them in practice. So you think he's good this year, and we don't know how this year is going to end with him. It could end with him winning the championship. Then he's going to go this summer and get some more tutelage from the Masters. Yeah. And if he gets any better, he continues to climb at this rate. Okay. It's going to be a lot to talk about.
All right. I give you that. But we are still very early in these playoffs. And all I know is that in the 2 fourth quarters of the games they lost to Denver this year, he scored 0 in both those fourth quarters. 0 by Anthony Edwards in those 2 fourth. Yeah. But I will give you this. Given the magnitude of a game one at that altitude, in that building, in that city against the defending champs on Saturday night, the way he closed that game was, I'll give you early Jordan-esque. I'll give you early
Kobe.
I'll give you early Kobe-esque. I'll give you that. Because we just saw LeBron and AD and company, they could not do that. Exactly. They could not close. They could not overcome. They could not rise above Jamal Murray in the fourth quarters. And Jamal was Jamal in the fourth quarter. And Anthony was better. He had help, but he was a little better. And they won the fourth quarter 33-28. That's all I know. And that was impressive.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm confused.
I don't think Jamal Murray is Anthony Edwards. I mean, they're very different personalities and players, but Jamal Murray is tough. He is a tough player and personality, and I would expect him to feel like he needs to have an answer to come out in game 2. And
well, he better have it in the first quarter and the second quarter.
I expect him to deliver at some point. I would expect Nikola Jokic, who is a very competitive guy, as laid back as he seems, as much as we say, oh, it's just, basketball is his second favorite sport. He is a guy who takes a lot of pride in his work. And I think they are going to spend a lot of time looking at this film about how the Timberwolves were able to disrupt, especially those lobs, right, that make up such a momentum, fire-starting kind of moments for Jokic to Aaron Gordon. They're going to look at how to get those back on track. Nikola Jokic is one of the rare basketball players that can do what great quarterbacks can do. He can throw guys open with his passes. And he wasn't doing that as much in game 1. And I think that they were mentally worn down by that Lakers series, too. I think the sort of heaviness of the Nuggets, LeBron and Lakers rivalry and who's your daddy and all of the pressure and all of that other kind of stuff was a big sort of emotional dumping ground for hey, this is where we're putting all of our energy. And then now you've got a new series, a fresh page, and I think they are newly focused. Right. This was a wake-up call.
Yeah, I agree. You know what? I can see this. And they let their guard down. Because when you come from a series, when you're matched up and it's LeBron and AD, just off of that, you're emotionally into it. You're ready. You're like, this is the stars of stars right now.
Okay, but they're not playing defense. They're just playing offense.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
But then you come into the Timberwolves and you're like, there's no AD or LeBron. So the magnitude of the hype around it is big.
Okay.
And so I could have seen it, just human nature, you kind of it's like a letdown almost. Like going to a 5-star restaurant and then the next week you go to a 4-star, but it's pretty good. Yeah. But it's just not the same. And so now I think they'll be ready. They'll make the necessary adjustments to what they need to do because now, Ant-Man, he's no longer a B-lister. He's an A-list. He's an A-list player. So I know the Denver Nuggets better get ready.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to assert once again, I don't think the T-Wolves can play any better than they played on Saturday. Because if I take out Jaden McDaniels from the starting lineup and I assume that sort of Naz Reid played the starter role for him, then I look at what the 5 combined, they shot 40 of 79. That's almost 60%. It's too good. It's not what Denver usually allows.
Yeah.
And they will come out readier tonight.
Yeah.
I think they will win fairly convincing tonight, and then we'll start to see what happens when they go to Minnesota.
Yeah.
All right.
I agree.
Okay, we got to talk some LeBron. We didn't get to talk about Darvin Ham fired after our show on Friday. How much did LeBron have to do with firing Darvin Ham? Thanks for watching, Undisputed fans. Do you want more highlights from the show? Make sure to click that subscribe button for all the exclusive content from Undisputed.